The Cypress Point Covenant gates of Cypress Point were not made of iron, but of implication. They stood open, flanked by immaculate white pillars, welcoming residents into a world of curated perfection. For David and Mia, closing on their first home here felt like a monumental achievement. The lawns were emerald carpets, the sidewalks pristine, and every hibiscus bush seemed to bloom in synchronized, regulation-approved pink. The HOA, the Covenant of Cypress Point, was the unseen hand that maintained this paradise. Their new neighbor, Mrs. Gable, was the first to welcome them with a binder thicker than their mortgage paperwork. The Covenant, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. It protects our property values. You'll find everything in here. Approved paint colors, mailbox styles, garbage can retrieval times. Welcome to the best decision you've ever made. The first month was bliss. Then came the first notice. It was slipped into their doorframe on heavy cream-colored paper. Violation, Code 12.4 improper floor. A photo was attached of a small, vibrant, purple wildflower that had sprouted at the edge of their meticulously mulched bed. Mia had planted it, a cutting from her grandmother's garden. David laughed it off. It's a flower, I'll call them. But the phone call was a lesson in bureaucratic stonewalling. The voice on the other end was polite, firm, and utterly immovable. The approved floral list is designed for cohesion and low allergen impacts. Please remove the non-compliant specimen within 48 hours. They removed the flower. Mia was quietly heartbroken. The notices became a monthly ritual. A trash can visible from the street 5 minutes before the designated retrieval time. A faint smudge on their driveway the week power washing was scheduled. David's home office light, visible through the blinds as he worked late, was deemed an inconsistent ambient light pollution source. They felt like they were living in a beautiful museum, where they were the most exhibits than patrons. Their frustration grew, but it was a silent, shared secret among many neighbors, exchanged in hushed tones during evening walks. Everyone was afraid of the HOA, and specifically, of its president, a retired corporate compliance officer named Arthur Finch. Arthur Finch didn't just enforce the rules, he embodied them. He wore starched khakis and polo shirts in one of the four approved earth tone colors. He conducted his weekly inspection walks with a clipboard and a measuring tape, his expression one of profound disappointment at any deviation from perfection. The breaking point came in autumn. Mia's father, a jovial man with a love for classic cars, visited in his restored 1972 Ford Bronco. He stayed for a weekend, the vintage truck parked proudly in their driveway. On Monday, a notice awaited them. Violation, Code 18.2 prohibited vehicle aesthetics. The Bronco, though in pristine condition, was deemed an eyesore not in keeping with the community's modern aesthetic. It was to be removed immediately or stored in their garage. That's it, David said, the paper trembling in his hand. This is insane. That evening, he went to his first hall meeting. The community hall was sterile and quiet. Arthur Finch presided from a raised dais, his gavel a symbol of absolute authority. David stood up during the open forum, his voice shaky at first. Mr. Finch, about the truck. It's a classic. It's not junk. This rule feels excessive. Finch adjusted his glasses. Mr. Miller, rules are not about feeling. They are about standards. Your vehicle, while perhaps classic to you, lowers the visual standard of Cypress Point. The rule stands. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. An older man named Frank, who David knew had been cited for a slightly off-white patio, cleared his throat but said nothing. The fear was palpable. Driving home, defeated, David noticed something. In Arthur Finch's own driveway, perfectly aligned, was his new luxury sedan. And next to it, barely visible under a custom-fit cover, was the distinct shape of another car. A corner of the cover had flipped up in the wind, revealing a gleaming chrome bumper and a white-walled tire. A classic car. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. The next day, David casually walked his dog past Finch's house. He took a picture. He then started noticing other things. Finch's fence was 6 inches taller than the code allowed. His backyard gazebo, barely visible through the slats, had not been submitted for approval according to the community portal. David didn't get angry. He got strategic. He started talking to his neighbors, not just as frustrated homeowners, but as a detective gathering evidence. He discovered that the Rodriguez family had been fined for a loud gathering that was actually a birthday party for their 6-year-old. Ms. Yin, a retired botanist, had been forced to uproot her native plant garden, which attracted butterflies, because it wasn't on the list. Frank had been threatened with a lien for his patio set. They were all living in fear of a man who didn't even follow his own rules. David created a private online group, the Cypress Point Underground. Within a week, over half the community had joined. He posted the picture of Finch's classic car. The dam broke. The next whole meeting was packed. Arthur Finch looked out, surprised but confident. To what do we owe this attendance? He asked. David stood up. To accountability, Mr. Finch. He turned to the crowd. We've all lived in fear of the covenant. We've been told our individuality is a threat to our property values. But what threatens a community more, a purple flower, or a leader who is a hypocrite? He projected the image of Finch's car. A murmur went through the crowd. Then, he showed the other violations. The fence, the gazebo. Finch turned pale. This is an invasion of privacy. Those are special circumstances, are they? David asked. Because my father-in-law's truck wasn't worthy of special circumstances. Ms. Yin's garden wasn't. Frank's patio set wasn't. One by one, people stood up. They spoke not with anger, but with empowered conviction. They spoke of wanting a community, not a showroom. They spoke of beauty and diversity, of the charm of a little individuality. A vote was called for right then and there. A vote of no confidence in the current board, led by Arthur Finch. The hands that rose were not just numerous, they were decisive. In the months that followed, the covenant of Cypress Point was rewritten. David and Mia were on the new committee, along with Ms. Yin and Frank. The approved flora list was expanded to include native, drought-resistant plants. Rules were amended to be reasonable, focusing on genuine neglect rather than aesthetic conformity. The Cypress Point Underground became the official social committee. There were block parties where music played past 9 p.m., gardens bloomed in a riot of colors, and parked proudly in David and Mia's driveway on weekends, next to a bed of vibrant purple wildflowers, sat a beautifully restored 1970 Ford Bronco. The gates of Cypress Point still stood open, but the implications had changed. They no longer implied rigid perfection, but rather a welcome into a place that had finally learned the difference between a house and a home. Like the video, subscribe to Whole Stories Hub, and join me for more whole nightmares and satisfying revenge stories.